add for you and for your viewers is this. We have over 12 million Americans who are out of work. We have another 8 million who are underemployed. I, for the life of me, can't understand why our government isn't focusing on getting America back to work. You don't have to have high taxes if you have a lot of taxpayers. That's number one. Number two, spending cuts. If you're talking about spending cuts that would involve undermining Medicare benefits, which is a health program that serves America's elderly, or Social Security by limiting the Social Security cost of living increase, you're talking about hitting people who rely on these programs the most. That can't be good for America. So, you know, my prediction is they won't have a deal by the end of the year on the bigger issues. They'll probably have a kick the can down the road approach, which will instruct tax committees to reform the code and will remind Congress of the targets that are set for the next year. But my guess is the next Congress is going to be doing a heavy lifting on this.
Congressman, can I put it another way? America's gross federal debt is now, give or take a few bucks, $16 trillion, about 100% of GDP. Has your country given up on ever paying that back? Is it now content simply to service the interest?
Well, it is a problem. I mean, the amount of interest that the government pays on that debt is extraordinary. At the same time, we've got to be careful that we don't cause our economy to crash over this commitment to keep reducing the debt. Look, our problem is not so much the government debt as the private debt that is going to keep mounting. And if the government cuts spending and increases taxes, you're going to see more deleveraging in the private sector and more unemployment, less taxpayers. We have an overall economy here. And while it is true, we should be careful about how we spend our money. That's axiomatic. At the same time, we have to be very careful that we don't push ourselves over a cliff with this idea that, well, reducing the federal deficit is the end-all and be-all right now. No, it's not.
It seems that the financial markets in the States are extremely sanguine about this so-called fiscal cliff. I was looking this morning, the Dow Jones index is nearly 1,000 points higher than it was 6 months ago. Are these traders delusional?
No, they're not delusional. I mean, this is the season of hope, right? We are looking, however, at Washington sending signals to markets with our inability to get a deal done here. And if we come up with a deal that has substantial tax increases and cuts in government programs, I predict there'll be deleveraging and you'll see some sell-offs. At the same time, I think that people are figuring that for next year, Congress will, in fact, come up with a deal with the administration and that there'll be probably pain on both sides, but the change in the Congress will probably enable the both political parties to have a little bit more discipline on both sides to be able to come to an agreement with the White House.
I was lucky enough to be in Chicago in the run-up to the election, and I've been in the States many times. I can't remember, certainly not in my lifetime, my adult lifetime, when politics in the United States was quite so partisan, was quite so aggressive and acidic. For a deal to be done on the fiscal cliff, it seems to me that the Republicans must accept tax rises, the Democrats are going to have to accept some spending cuts, but someone's got to blink first. Who will it be?
Well, you're right as far as your analysis. That's a fair, that's a conventional analysis right now. But I want to say that the question is, who's paying for the tax cuts? Are you going to make the middle class pay? If we don't take any action by the end of the year, by the way, you're going to see millions of people lose their unemployment benefits. You're going to see people having automatic tax increases because we didn't fix the alternative minimum tax. You'll see the Bush tax cuts expire, which in the next year will cause rises in taxes. We have to ask who's paying these tax increases. Just saying, well, let's go for tax increases doesn't solve the problem. I want to see more taxpayers. And as far as spending cuts, when we come out of this, I predict they won't be looking at sharp cuts in the Pentagon. America's still, intervening in various countries, driving up the cost of the Pentagon. And in addition to that, they're focusing on cuts in what? Medicare, Social Security. So you get social cuts for the programs that are needed the most, and the money will then go into programs that really are dubious, like expanding America's military footprint abroad. So, you know, this thing isn't over. And I think it's worth watching because there'll be a deal. There's no question about it. This system inevitably works. There will be the Republicans and Democrats coming together. But the question is, who's going to pay the price in both constituencies?
Congressman Kucinich, a real pleasure. Many thanks for your time.
Thank you very much.
Now, here's Martin Stanford at Sky Centre with the day's news headlines.